Hey, this is John with FixYourDirtBike.com, and this is how to rebuild the top end on your 1994 through 2001 Yamaha YZ125. This is my real-time full-service video that you can follow along with as you rebuild your top end. This is a very long video, and I have time-stamped each step below. But if you would like to see the faster point-to-point video or individual service videos, I have those linked below as well. 94 through 01 YZ125s came with 5 slightly different top-end sizes. The standard piston and cylinder sizes are not marked, but the other 4 are marked A, B, C, and D on the piston and cylinder. I will be showing the standard size because that's what I have. As always, I have the full tools and parts list below, as well as a link to the full top-end specification chart with specs for the other top-end sizes. Secure your bike on a stand with the body and exhaust removed and the cooling system drained and disconnected. Start by removing the exhaust valve linkage cover, then disconnect the exhaust valve linkage. If you want to service the exhaust valve governor, remove the right crankcase cover. Mark the head nuts 1 through 6 to follow a consistent crisscross pattern. Remove the spark plug. Loosen the cylinder head nuts 1/4 turn at a time to avoid head warp, with as many passes as you need. You may need to hose your head nuts down with penetrating oil. Remove the nuts and seal washers. Lift the cylinder head off the cylinder, followed by the O-rings. Set your cylinder head aside and set the old O-rings in the trash. Mark the 4 cylinder base nuts 1 through 4 to follow a consistent pattern. Loosen the cylinder base nuts 1/4 turn at a time to avoid binding. Take as many passes as you need. Turn your piston to bottom dead center and carefully lift your cylinder off the crankcase. If your cylinder is stuck, tap the cylinder with a mallet in multiple locations. Do not twist the cylinder during removal. Do not twist the cylinder during removal. Before you do any cleaning or wiping, inspect your cylinder for any scratches or inconsistent wear patterns. Start with your piston rotated to top dead center. Test the condition of the connecting rod, needle bearing, and wrist pin. Grip the connecting rod with one hand and try to rock, not slide, the piston side to side. If there is any play, you already know something is out of spec. Remove the pin clips with a pick. Wear safety glasses. A pin clip to the eye hurts like you would not friggin' believe! Remove the wrist pin. Remove the wrist pin. Remove the needle bearing and wrap your connecting rod with a clean shop towel. Remove the needle bearing and wrap your connecting rod with a clean shop towel. Your exhaust valve has a lot of small, losable parts, so stay as organized as possible. These components are hard to get without buying an entire parts engine. The exhaust valve is in direct contact with the exhaust, so this will be a messy removal. Start by removing the exhaust valve cover and throw away the old gasket. Remove the screw securing the link lever to the valve shaft. Carefully remove the valve shaft from the cylinder and remove the left collar and spring, link lever, right spring, and collar. Remove the screws securing the power valves, then remove both valves. Inspect the valve shaft for cracks and burrs. Inspect the holders and power valves for cracks and burrs. Most burrs can be removed with a fine-tooth file, but cracked parts need to be replaced. Make sure the pins are secure within the valve, but do not try to remove the pins. Inspect the exhaust valve operating area in the cylinder block for excessive wear or damage. As you may have noticed, your exhaust valve has a lot of small parts, and since these parts are small and in constant contact with the exhaust, make sure to clean them as thoroughly as possible. Clean the entire head with parts cleaner and a soft brush. Or a shop towel, you do you. If you have carbon buildup in the combustion chamber, soak your parts in cleaner, then gently scrub it off with a scouring pad. You can use a wire brush on a drill, but be very careful not to apply too much pressure. With the surface cleaned, inspect any signs of obvious wear or damage. Check that the water jackets are free of obstruction and the mating surface is smooth. You can smooth out small burrs and pits with 600 grit emery paper, but be careful, 1/1000th of an inch could take your head out of spec. I like to buff my combustion chamber and mating surface to a shine, but I'm extra. Gently run your spark plug thread follower all the way through the spark plug hole to correct any thread damage. If your threads are stripped out and your follower cannot correct them, you will need to install a helicoil. What's a helicoil? A helicoil is a screw thread insert. It's basically an extra set of threads made out of steel that can replace damaged threads in soft materials like aluminum. Inspect the head for warp. Lay your straight edge across two adjacent mounting holes and try to fit your feeler gauge underneath. If you find any gaps, double check the head for smoothness and try again. If the gap still exists, record the measurement. Repeat this measurement process around the head. The warp limit for your cylinder head is 0.0012 inches. You can bring your head into spec with a sheet of 600 grit emery paper and a piece of glass. Tape the emery paper to a sheet of glass and run your cylinder head in a figure 8 motion against the paper using very light pressure. Stop and measure your clearance every 3 passes. If you cannot bring your head back to spec, you will need to take it to a machine shop. As you can see, I'm doing way more than 3 passes each time, but I'm just trying to get the smoothest surface possible as I am already in spec. Clean your cylinder head with hot, soapy water and rinse thoroughly. Dry with compressed air and double check the mating surface for smoothness. If everything looks good, apply a light coat of WD-40 to avoid oxidation, and wrap your cylinder head in plastic wrap to avoid contaminants until you're ready for assembly. Finally, check your hanger plates for damage. If the plates are bent or the holes are elongated, they need to be replaced. I would inspect my hanger brackets, but this bike didn't come with them, so I have to go find them, and they're not easy to find, apparently. But that's just my problem. Clean your cylinder as thoroughly as you can without damaging the mating surfaces or bore. Remove all gasket material with a plastic scraper and smooth any pits or burrs with 600 grit emery paper. Check the cylinder head mounting studs. If you find a loose stud, retorque it along with the others when the cylinder is back on the bike. If carbon buildup is present in the bore, it will need to be deglazed. There are two methods of deglazing, depending on your cylinder wall material. Stock, this is an aluminum cylinder with Nicosil plating and can be carefully deglazed with a scouring pad. However, your cylinder may have been bored out and fitted with an iron sleeve, which can be deglazed with a ball hone. The definite way to tell is using a magnet. If it sticks, it's sleeved. With your cylinder cleaned and deglazed, inspect the water jackets, transfer ports, and exhaust valve subchamber for obstruction, wear, or damage. Clean the mating surface on the crankcase with a plastic scraper. Check the surface for smoothness and correct any pits or burrs. Check the mounting studs for tightness and thread condition. I am taking the extra time to polish the mating surfaces and remove as many casting marks as I can. This is not a necessary step, but I might have a little OCD. Lay your straight edge against 2 adjacent studs and try to fit a feeler gauge underneath. Record any found gaps. If you find any gaps, double check the surface for smoothness and try again. Check the surface. The warp limit for the cylinder is 0.0012 inches. 00. If your cylinder is out of spec, it will need to be resurfaced at a machine shop. Before you measure the cylinder bore, visually inspect it. If you feel a defined lip on the top of the cylinder bore where the piston rings stop, or if the plating is chipped or damaged around the intake, exhaust, and transfer ports, it needs to be replated. This cylinder is in excellent condition considering the unusual wear on the piston. The intake side is slightly marked, but is still smooth, so I'm comfortable with reusing it as long as it's within spec. Draw out a chart to keep track of your measurements. Measure your cylinder at 3 locations. Yamaha does not provide a specific measurement depth. Without a specific location, I measure 10 millimeters from the top, the middle, 10 millimeters from the bottom. Label these locations A, B, and C. These locations take measurements front to back and side to side. Measure, then re-measure, and write down all your measurements. And all measurements should be between 54 and 54.014 millimeters. I am using a simple bore gauge and caliper method to measure my cylinder bore. I recommend this method as it is inexpensive and you can use your gauges and calipers for other inspections. A dial bore gauge will work, that's what it's for after all, but it's a one-trick pony and may not be worth the investment. When releasing the set screw on your bore gauge, do not let it snap back into full extension, it will be damaged. Wash your cylinder in hot, soapy water with a cylinder brush and dry with compressed air. Apply a thin coat of WD-40 to the cylinder walls to inhibit oxidation. Wrap your cylinder in plastic wrap until you are ready for assembly. Before purchasing a new piston, ensure that yours needs to be replaced. And if you do need a new piston, follow the same inspection steps before installation. You never know if there's a flaw, and taking 10 minutes to measure beats the hell out of grenading your freshly built engine. If you need a new piston, just get a stock replacement. With this small of an engine, you won't see any advantages of an ultralight forged aluminum race piston from Wiseco, forged, or a heavy cast Pro X piston for trail riding. The only time an aftermarket piston is needed only is when your engine has undergone significant modifications. This piston exhibits perfect carbon buildup, indicating that the premix ratio is correct. The carburetor is tuned correctly, and the transfer ports are flowing freely. This piston made contact with the intake side of the cylinder, indicating that the piston warmed up before the cylinder and expanded too quickly. This is what happens when you don't let your engine warm up. I have to replace this piston, but if your piston still looks good, it may still be within spec, and if it is, all you need are new rings. And if it is, your piston must be in perfect condition to reuse it. If one thing is wrong, it needs to be replaced. You will, however, need new wrist pin clips regardless of your piston's condition. Before you bother cleaning your piston, make sure it's within spec. Measure your piston 10 millimeters from the skirt 90 degrees to the wrist pin. 90 degrees. This measurement should be between 53.957 and 53.972 millimeters. 972 millimeters. If your piston is out of spec, it will need to be replaced, but don't throw it out just yet. Even though you will not be reusing your piston ring, we can use it to see what the engine has been up to. Take the old ring and roll it around the piston in its groove. Feel for any snags or binding. Reinstall the piston ring. Press the ring into the groove and then measure the ring to groove clearance with a feeler gauge. The ring should have a clearance no greater than 0.004 inches. If the ring to piston clearance is out of spec, the piston is most likely worn, not the rings. Repeat this process with the new ring. If the clearance exceeds spec with a new ring, the piston must be replaced. This type of wear is caused by ring deflection, which occurs due to improper lubrication from poor air-to-fuel ratio, incorrect premix ratio, engine braking, or a combination of all three. Inspect the piston crown for damage. If you find any, replace the piston. Inspect the ring grooves and locating pin. If the pin is damaged or missing, replace the piston. Inspect the piston skirt. If you find any abrasions or cracking, replace the piston. Inspect the interior of the piston and pin bore for wear or cracks. Guess what you need to do if you find any? Clean and dry the wrist pin and bearings, and check for excessive wear or damage. There is no manufacturer service limit for the pin, piston bore, connecting rod bore, or clearance limits. If it's tight, use it. If it's not tight, don't use it. Insert the needle bearing into the rod bore. If there is play, the needle bearing needs to be replaced. Inspect the crankshaft side clearance by inserting a feeler gauge between the crankshaft and the connecting rod. My crankshaft has been removed for the rebuild, but it can be easily accessed inside the engine. The connecting rod to crankshaft clearance should be no greater than 0.026 inches. If your piston and cylinder are measured within spec, now we need to ensure they are within spec in relation to each other. Fortunately, with an engine this small, all you need to do is subtract the largest cylinder measurement from the smallest piston measurement. The piston to cylinder clearance must be no greater than 0.004 inches. My piston and cylinder clearance came out to 0.006 inches, putting my old piston out of spec. My new piston clearance is 0.017, putting me dead center within spec for a new piston. Before installing the piston ring, we need to ensure that the installed end gap is within spec. Insert the piston ring in the bottom of the cylinder and push it down with the piston so it inserts evenly. Measure the ring gap with a feeler gauge. The end gap should be no greater than 0.031 inches on 94 through 95 models and 0.047 on 96 to 01 models. If the rings are too tight, you can file the ends with a fine metal file or sandpaper until they are within spec. Install the first piston pin clip into the pin bore groove. Your thumbs and a small pick should work just fine, but be careful not to gouge the cylinder with the end of the clip. Rotate the clip so the opening faces up. Double check that your ring is clean and dry. Lubricate the piston edge and ring grooves with 2-stroke oil. If your ring has any markings, install it with the markings facing up. Spread the ring just enough to clear the piston and install straight down. Do not try to wrap the ring into the groove. Align the ring with the alignment pin. Check that the ring is free in the groove. Place your piston, pin, clip, and bearings in a Ziploc bag to keep them clean and organized. The power valves are not symmetrical, so you have to install them on the correct sides of the cylinder. Lubricate all moving parts with two-stroke oil. Install the right side power valve first, followed by the left. Side power valve first, followed by the left. Use new screws to secure the power valve. Apply thread lock and install the power valve mounting screws. Yamaha does not supply a torque specification for the power valve mounting screws, so I am torquing them to 20 inch-pounds so I know they are evenly tightened. After tightening, check the valves for unrestricted movement. Install the pivot shaft, collars, and link lever assembly. Make sure the link lever springs are positioned on the exhaust valve pins. check the shaft and valves for any binding before you install the link lever screw. Apply thread locker and install the link lever screw. Torque the link lever screw to 44 inch-pounds on 1994 through 1995 models and 35 inch-pounds on 1996 through 2001 models. Rotate the valve shaft manually to check for smooth operation of the shaft and power valves. If the valves or shaft stick in any position, there is interference in one of the components. Correct this before installing anything else. Install a new gasket and install the cover. I have no idea where the gasket was for this, so to make sure I don't forget, I put a piece of paper in there so when I find the gasket, I know where it goes. If the cover is installed upside down, the link lever will contact it, limiting the movement of the power valves. Start the piston installation by covering your crankcase opening with a shop towel. If you drop your clip, you will spend an absurd amount of time trying to fish it out of the crankcase before you realize it would have been faster just to split the case again. I am using Lucas Assembly Lube, but 2-stroke oil will work just fine, but you will need to use a lot of it. Apply assembly lube to the needle bearing and install it into the connecting rod bore. Old or new, your piston should have an arrow or the word "in" stamped on the crown. If it's an arrow, point it towards the front of the bike. If it's an "in," that side goes to the rear. Position your piston accordingly and apply assembly lube to the wrist pin. Push your wrist pin all the way to the opposite side pin clip. All the way to the opposite side pin clip. While wearing your safety glasses, install the second pin clip with the opening facing up. When installing the second clip, I did manage to scrape up my piston, but I was able to smooth it out with emery paper. With your piston installed, keep the shop towel in place until you install the cylinder. Double check the cylinder bore and mating surfaces for cleanliness. Install your new gasket. Lubricate your piston with 2-stroke oil and rotate the crankshaft so the piston is at top dead center. Double check that the piston ring is seated against the locating pins and position your cylinder. Hold your cylinder as level as you can with the piston and compress the rings against the alignment pin. The cylinder should slide right over the ring. Just like when you removed the cylinder, do not twist the cylinder during install. You will break something. As you can see here, you might have to fight the piston and ring to get it into the bottom of the cylinder. Not exactly graceful, I'll admit, but whatever you need to do, just make sure the piston goes into the cylinder straight. This is an edited version of this. This took me longer than I'd care to admit. Still going. Oh, almost. There it is. With your cylinder on the gasket, rotate the crankshaft several times to feel for any binding or dragging. If your piston travel is anything but smooth, remove the cylinder and recheck everything. I highly recommend using ARP Ultra Torque to get the most accurate torque specification. Thread the cylinder mounting nuts finger tight. Remember, when using the torque adapter, you will not need to compensate for length if the adapter remains at a right angle on your torque wrench. Begin torquing the nuts in the same crisscross pattern. Turn the nuts 1/4 turn at a time, taking as many passes as you need to reach torque. Torque the cylinder mounting nuts to 21 foot-pounds. Double check the mating surface for cleanliness. Install your new O-rings. Mount your cylinder head and install the mounting nuts finger tight. I am installing my nuts with ARP Ultra Torque. This is a lubricant that ensures accurate torque values by reducing friction between the nut and the mounting surface. I probably don't need it for this application, but I'm extra. Torque the mounting nuts in the same crisscross pattern, turning the nuts 1/4 turn at a time until you reach torque. Torque the mounting nuts to 21 foot-pounds. Install the hanger plates and torque the bolts to 25 foot-pounds. This is where I would show mounting my hanger plate. If I had one! Install the spark plug and torque to 15 foot-pounds. I don't have it on video, but trust me, I totally torqued my spark plug. You can buy a leak down tester or make your own for a fraction of the price. If you want to make your own, my DIY leak down tester video is below. The leak down test is a crucial step in your rebuild, as it provides an easy way to verify your work. If you have a bad seal or something isn't torqued correctly, this will tell you. Plug your exhaust valve vent. A screw wrapped in electrical tape works pretty well. Install your expansion plug tightly in the exhaust port. Attach your leak down tester to the carburetor boot and make sure to clamp it tight. Slowly pressurize your engine. Do not go over 10 psi or you risk blowing a seal. You want your gauge to sit at 5 to 6 psi. If the pressure drops less than 1 psi in 5 minutes, you're good to go. If your pressure drops immediately or more than 1 psi in 5 minutes, it's time to go hunting. The right side crank seal is the last thing to test if you can't find the leak anywhere else. Pressurize your engine and spray it with soapy water. Spray the tester itself and the exhaust plug just to be safe. If there is any leak, you will easily spot the bubbles. My bike was leaking from the spark plug and exhaust valve vent plug, which were easy fixes. After you fix any leaks, repeat the leak down test, and if everything looks good, install your right crankcase cover. Your exhaust valve governor sits at the bottom front of your right crankcase. I recommend cleaning one component group at a time to keep things organized. The 3 component groups are the linkage, governor assembly, and the right crankcase itself. Start by removing the 2 screws holding the governor fork to the pushrod assembly. Remove the pushrod assembly. Clean and inspect the pushrod assembly for cracks or bends, and check that the pivot points move freely. Place your connecting rod in a Ziploc bag and spray it down with penetrating oil to deep clean the pivot points. Clean the pushrod bore and check for any burrs, cracks, or obvious damage. Check the bearing by placing your governor in the bore and giving it a good spin. The governor should spin freely without wobble. If your bearing is damaged, it needs to be replaced. If everything checks out, clean the cover and reinstall the pushrod assembly. Install the governor fork with the bar facing down. Apply thread lock and torque the fork screws to 44 inch-pounds. Align the groove on the governor to the fork and test the operation. The drive shaft should operate freely. The exhaust valve governor is a stack of thrust bearings, washers, and a collar, all held together with a single pin at the end. As you disassemble the governor, lay out each piece in order, then clean and inspect each piece while you reassemble. But my favorite way is to get the governor almost assembled, then drop everything and have all the pieces mixed up. It's a good time, I highly recommend it. If any parts are damaged, they need to be replaced. The governor design changed for the 1999 model year. Pause here to take a screenshot of the installation order. Press down the governor stack and install the pin with needle nose pliers. Install the governor in the crankcase. Install a new gasket and install the crankcase cover. Install the linkage washer and linkage arm. I like to use a screwdriver to raise the drive shaft arm into position. Apply thread locker and install the drive shaft bolt. When tightening the drive shaft bolt, use a socket as a backstop to avoid stress on the linkage and drive shaft. Install the rubber crankcase seal. If it's cracked, brittle, or otherwise worn out, it needs to be replaced. Install the linkage cover first, then install the gasket. The gasket is an open design, which makes it easy to slide in from the top, but you will have to finagle the holes to align the bolts. Before you start, assemble the cooling system, fill the radiator, and fill the transmission with oil. For break-in, you will need extra oil, a non-paved surface, and some patience. This will take a while when done properly. Start the break-in process wherever you did your work because you may have to take it apart again. Start your bike and let it run at idle speed until it is warmed up, then stop the engine and allow it to cool off completely. Start your bike again, let it warm up again, then ride for about 10 minutes using no more than half throttle, but don't let the engine lug either. Turn it off and allow it to cool completely. Repeat the warm, ride, cool process 2 more times. Don't go too far though. If your bike locks up, you're pushing it back. Check the crankcase oil for signs of a coolant leak. If your oil is milky or watery, your head gasket is not sealed. If your oil looks good, congratulations, you just rebuilt your top end. If you need any help with your top end rebuild or have any questions, please let me know in the comments or send me a DM. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.